How's it? Welcome back. Here we are ready for chapter 3. Now, I'm a bit of a dunce because I read the entire chapter and then realized I hadn't clicked record. The upshot is that my tea is now already brewed, so I'm going to start with that. And then you're in for a treat this evening because the next two chapters are really short, so I thought I might as well do a double feature. We'll do chapters 3 and 4 this evening. Yeah. Trust you guys have put your kettles on and brewing a cup of your own tea. Yeah. Cheers. Yes. Lovely Earl Grey. Okay. Chapter 3. The Forest Hyena. On those typically warm African days, most of us boys would lay in the shade of the big avocado tree that was planted in the furthest corner of the garden. We would lie there and watch the clouds like giant cotton balls chasing each other across a sky so blue you'd think it was painted. All our work was done in mind only, and often Serege the gardener would join us in this exercise. Our conversations were only of the type to help you daydream. One day Serege brought all of us out of our dozing instantly, with the simple statement, "I saw the forest hyena last night." The questions poured from my friends as they tried not to show their fear. Finally Serege turned to me and asked, "Have you nothing to ask about the forest hyena?" Somehow he must have figured that I had something to do with the dead snake that had taken years off his life and put plenty of splinters in his body as he had crashed through that reed wall during his hasty retreat. I could never let on that I was the one, so I replied, "I know all about the forest hyena." I remembered clearly all the African myths and fables my father had told me of this animal. Its liver was the strongest medicine available to the witch doctors, and so also the most expensive. The hyena's tail was used as a protection against all evil spirits. A hyena's head placed facing a hut would ensure the death of all the occupants. "How big is it?" asked Bunwa, my closest hunting companion. "Its back is as tall as a 3-month-old calf, and it has teeth so large they fit on the outside of its mouth like a crocodile," I replied. The boy's admiration and awe for me was visible. "And where do you learn such things, Masango?" asked Serege, looking down at me from his elevated position. "I have eaten the liver of the forest hyena," I replied, lowering my voice. This brought a murmur on from all. I was now riding too high on my newfound stardom and carried on. "I have no fear of the forest hyena, and will even lie on their path, and they will not eat me." This statement was too much, and all the boys covered their mouths. Every week, someone was brought into the hospital that had been bitten by a hyena. Men who had drunk too much banana beer were often brought in with parts of them eaten away by these fearsome beasts. Only Serege with his devious mind uttered, "When will you do it?" "Next week, after I've prepared myself. I will lie in sight of Tozo's hut, and you can tell all that you will see." A week was customary for preparation of anything of consequence. The week went by all too quickly. And during that time, hyenas near the market ate a lady only a mile away. I found it hard to sleep and couldn't eat much. By the time I left for sorry, I lost my place. By the time I left with Tozo for his village, I was a quivering mass on the inside, but quiet and calm on the outside. After eating, I borrowed a small clay pot from Tozo and went and rolled up in a blanket within sight of Tozo's hut. The plan was for me to call Tozo when the hyena came. I had brought a small candle and matches with me, and put the lit candle in the clay pot. No one from the village could see my light, but it gave me comfort. I lay wide awake for several hours, and every sound and rustle made my heart stick in my neck. I could even feel my heartbeat in my armpits. About 3 in the morning, a huge animal loomed out of the blackness next to me. At first, I couldn't even squeak, but then I found vocal powers I didn't even know I had, and shook the village awake with my screams. Partway through my screaming, I saw that the beast was a cow. I could never go through all this again, so I made the most of it. I kept screaming and ran at the cow, shouting, "Get away from here, you evil beast!" It disappeared into the blackness, but not before Tozo had seen a huge dark shape, which he took to be the hyena. "Did you see it?" I shouted as I ran towards his hut. I did, Masango," whined Tozo, almost paralyzed with fright. "It didn't even touch you. Truly you have special powers." I joined Tozo in his hut and slept well the rest of the night, putting my bravado behind me and dreaming of 20-pound Bream. I left at daybreak to go home alone. I was now a hero. Tozo would make sure of that. I'd face the forest hyena. I spent 3 years doing anti-poaching in the Zambezi Valley. Often on moonlit nights, we would make forays into villages or camps where we knew poachers to be. Walking those trails at night, I would often think of the forest hyena, and a pleasurable tingle of fear would creep its way into the pit of my stomach. So that's the end of chapter 3. Let's carry on. Chapter 4. Sundowner time. The moon shines bright in such a night as this, when the sweet wind did gently kiss the trees, and they did make no noise in such a night. The Merchant of Venice, Shakespeare. I'm running, my head full of ideas and dreams, but the thought that dominates all at this very moment is that I have to be home by sundown. The only rule my parents were strict about when I was out by myself in the bush. My bare feet make little puffs of dust as I jog along. The dog on my left is trotting, my gun hanging from its sling is gently slapping my side rhythmically with each step. The sweat is pouring down my body, making white streaks as it washes off my dust-coated skin. The sun is almost touching the horizon now, and I know it will only take 5 minutes before it is gone. Another thought takes over. At this moment, the rest of my family are all sitting on the front veranda steps. My father has come back from the hospital and changed into shorts, and still smelling of medicine, he sits there sipping a cool drink while he sorts out the post. The postman always beats me home, even though he has to walk 25 miles each day. It was almost a ritual. Gahela, bringing the post bag just before sundown. My father sorting the post, my sister and mother anxiously sorting for personal leathers. The dog and I doing a sprint up the valley next to the house so we can slip in the side unnoticed, hopefully. I had the same rule when I was growing up on the farms. Just got to be back by sundown. I picture a plate of freshly baked biscuits sitting on the ledge next to my father, and I swallow at the thought. After the post has been sorted, he often puts a biscuit in each cheek and closes his mouth, stretching his cheeks into a grotesque face. It always manages to bring a comment of, "Oh, stop that, you look terrible," from the ladies. I chuckle to think of all the foolish things father and I did to get their attention. I'm almost home now and running hard. My breath is choked from the dust. I hear father's voice come rolling down the valley, deep and clear. "Masango, it's sundown." He's on my side and knows I'm somewhere, struggling to make the deadline. I yell back as loudly as I can, "I'm home!" 2 minutes later, I come in the back door and take a quick drink of cold water, kept in a clay pot in the hallway. Controlling my breath, I go and sit down on the veranda. Buster has no culture and lolls across Mum's lap, panting with his long pink tongue, making a small pool on the cement step. My mind is alert to any forthcoming lecture, but there is none. I can smell the climbing roses that cover the wall and pillars of our veranda. I can smell the medicine that has permeated Father's clothes. I look, and sure enough, the cat is stretched across my birdcage. I relax, taking a couple of biscuits with a glass of milk, and lean against Father. He puts his arm around me. I dig my bare toe into the dog's back leg. Alright, I think that's enough for this evening. And sleep well. Good night, sleep well, and see you tomorrow for chapter 5, I believe. Cheers.